Hello, my lovely friend, and welcome to the Soul Care Intuitive Podcast. I'm your host, Melinda Grubbs, and in this podcast, we're going to show you that you're not just ordinary, you're extraordinary. I never had any spiritual experiences as a child, and I did not discover my own psychic abilities until my late 30s. I love to share all that I have learned to show you that we all already have these skills inside of us, just screaming to be let loose. So if you're ready to awaken your soul, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. In this episode of the Soul Care Intuitive Podcast, we're going to be diving into the topic of shadow work. Now, this is something that has really been important to me on my healing journey because it's helping me get deep inside of my subconscious mind and accessing those limiting beliefs, those thoughts, those emotions, those painful situations and traumas that I have shoved down over a lifetime. It's helping me access those so that I can release that from my energetic field, from my body, and really heal and move on with my life. And I have experienced so much freedom, so much joy, so much more magic in life ever since I have been doing shadow work and really diving into myself and not hiding anymore, not being afraid anymore, not being fearful anymore. And I want to help you understand shadow work so that you can do it for yourself, so that you can heal, and so that you can wake up every day feeling the truest, most authentic self that you've ever wanted to be. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to hide. We don't have to live in fear of judgments anymore. Those days are over. The age of Aquarius is here. And this is about spirituality. This is about healing your life, healing your body, healing yourself, healing your relationships. Keyword being healing. This is a time of great and deep healing for humanity. And when you do shadow work, you're really getting into those deep areas within yourself that need to be healed and let go of. Did you know that 95% of the show is run by your subconscious mind? Did you know that you're only conscious of about 5% of your beliefs, your emotions, what's going on and happening around you, the thoughts that you're thinking? 5%. The other 95% of that is in the background running 24 hours a day, whether you're awake or asleep. And thinking about that just makes me realize that I really need to dive into that shadow part of myself because I don't want that 95% to be repeating limiting beliefs I've healed, limiting beliefs I don't even want to have in my experience anymore. I don't want that 95% running my show on an autopilot of crap that is not conducive to my life, of things that I don't want, things that I want to change. The way to do that is through shadow work. Now, there's many different ways to do shadow work. There's journaling, there's inner child healing work, there's self-talk work, there is going in and talking to your spirit guides and your angels to help you, there is going in and talking to your higher self, to God, creator, source, however you see that power. There's so many ways to work on your shadow, and the key is to find the one that works best for you. My way that I love to do is through inner child healing work. That's where you connect with younger versions of yourself, where you picked up those limiting beliefs, where you picked up that pain, that trauma, maybe something happened when you were a child. These are where you have stored those emotions, thoughts, feelings in your body, and now that 95% subconscious is running that program that you learned when you were a child, and it's been running it since that program came online. So I like to dive into my shadow through inner child healing work and connecting with those parts of myself that need to be healed, where emotional pain, trauma, limiting beliefs, anything like that needs to be let go of. I do have a free inner child healing journal on my website, soulcareintuitive.com. I highly encourage you to check that journal out. It is amazing and it has helped so many of my clients work on their shadow, heal those parts of their life, and really move on and have that magic and authenticity they've always wanted. The term shadow work came from Carl Jung in the 1920s, and he defined this as parts of our psyche that are hidden from us. This means shadow. There's a light side, the part that we see, and the shadow side, the part that we don't see. And that's what he is calling our shadow self. It's that 95% of the show that's running without you even knowing it's there. He deemed the term shadow work as a way to work on bringing that shadow part of you to the light. And that's what you're doing when you're healing your shadow. You're really just bringing those things to the light or to your conscious awareness. So for example, if you're doing inner child healing work and you had a moment with a teacher in elementary school and that teacher said to you, you're worthless, you can't, you never will, that program stuck inside of your subconscious mind, in your shadow, and in the background, without you realizing it, you're being told through that 95%, I'm not worthy, I can't, I never will, I'm not good enough. And so when you do the shadow work, you're bringing that to the light. You're telling your subconscious mind, I'm ready to see this with clarity. Whether you see it in your third eye, maybe you feel it, maybe you know it. Everybody receives that information differently. But you get that information and you remember that moment, you feel that moment. And then because you've now brought it to your conscious awareness, it is no longer a part of your shadow. And that story is no longer being told on the back end of your life. Once you've felt all those emotions, you can then step in as your adult self. Maybe you can even have that teacher have a new dialogue. She would say to you, you're amazing. You're my favorite student. I love having you in my class. Or you would have your adult self say, this is not true. You're amazing. You're perfect. You're this, you're that. Because you've brought that part out of the shadow and up into your conscious mind where your light is, you are now removing that part of your story. You're removing that energetic cord, if you will, to allow for more light to come in, to allow for you to have a more magical experience. Think about this. That 95% of your subconscious mind that is running the show is filled with things you don't want there. Limiting beliefs like I can't, I won't, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty, I'm too fat, many, many millions more. And when those are stuck on that 95% loop that you don't even know and you're not even aware of, the life around you, the things that you see in your 3D world are reflecting back that 95%. I can tell you for myself, when I started doing the shadow work, it was very difficult, very, very difficult, because you're bringing up emotions, thoughts, feelings, situations that you experience that hurt, that are painful, most of which I forgot about. And that 95%, it doesn't forget anything. So when you're digging into your shadow, when you first start, it really hurts. And I have a lot of clients tell me that they've given up or they've stopped because it hurts so much. And to you and to them, I say, the greatest piece of magic that you will ever experience in your life comes from healing those shadow parts. It comes from healing those parts of yourself that you have refused to look at, and those parts of yourself that are giving you a 3D world you don't want. The reason you're listening or watching this podcast is because there's a part of you that knows you don't want whatever your 3D world is showing you. And you can absolutely heal that and change that through doing shadow work. Shadow work is what has really given me the life that I have now, that I see now. I used to be somebody that was so shy, somebody that was afraid of conflict, somebody that was afraid to speak my mind or speak up. And through doing shadow work, I have figured out why that's happened. I've seen situations in my past where that has happened and I shut myself down. I've seen situations in my childhood where a teacher told me to shut up because nobody wanted to hear what I said. That was my 4th grade teacher. She was so nasty. And that program stuck with me and stayed with me over time. But the more I healed that, the more I went through my shadow, the more I did that inner healing work, the more I saw my 3D life change. I wasn't afraid to speak my mind, and the relationships I have now, they're not afraid to hear me speak my mind. I used to have friends in my life where if I spoke my mind, they'd yell at me. But that's because my subconscious, that 95% of the show, had limiting beliefs that I can't speak my truth or I'm going to be yelled at. When I healed that, and let me tell you, I didn't even realize it had happened. It took me reflecting in a meditation to say, wait a minute. I've been speaking my mind and I haven't been yelled back at. I haven't been reverberated back with anger. Something is changing. Something has changed in my life, in my world. And that's because now I've brought that limiting belief to light that I can't say anything because I'll be yelled at. I've brought that limiting belief to the light. It's out of the shadow. And I said, you're not going to control me anymore. This limiting belief is gone. I can say what I want, when I want, how I want. I'm a human being. I'm a soul. I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to be free. I'm allowed to say and do what makes me feel comfortable. And I do not have to shove anything down anymore. And my 3D reality has been reflecting that beautiful new belief back to me. That belief of I can say what I want to say and I don't have to be afraid. I can say what I want to say and nobody's going to yell back at me. Now, let me tell you, if somebody does have a negative or nasty comment back, and there's people that will, no matter how much work you do on yourself, there are a lot of unhealed people in the world. You have to understand that. But now when they yell back at me, I don't recoil. I don't get scared. I don't say, oh no. I say, okay. That's your opinion. I respect that. You're not going to yell at me, but I respect your opinion. And I'm able to walk away from that because that limiting belief of being afraid to be yelled at is gone. I've brought it to the light. Now, I can tell you too that I've had to bring that belief to the light many, many times because there's several times over my lifetime where I've spoken up or spoken my truth and I was yelled at for it. There was many times where I've said something that I felt inside with a partner, a person I was dating, and they screamed at me for it and I recoiled. So yes, I had to work on that limiting belief many, 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 many times because you're going to experience that at different points in your life. You might have different people say to you, you're not good enough. It could come from a teacher, a parent, a family member. It could come from somebody in public. It could come from a partner. One and done is not what happens in shadow work, unfortunately. So you might have to keep digging and digging and digging until you find the root of that cause, that limiting belief, and heal it and let it go. A huge aspect that I have found in shadow work is the aspect of forgiveness. And I've talked about this a lot on my YouTube channel, and I've made several videos about forgiveness on this podcast. The last episode I made, it was episode 10. I talked about how I was able to forgive the woman who killed my father. And that journey took years. So again, I want to preface this. Doing shadow work is magical, powerful beyond words that I could give you in the English language. But it's hard, it takes work, and it takes dedication. But at the end of that road is magic you've never even thought you could experience. So keep going. But the main thing I want to talk about in this section of the podcast is about forgiveness. So we know what the shadow is. We know why you need to heal it. We know how to heal it. The other aspect of shadow work is forgiveness. So there's been a lot of things that have been said or done to you. You've been in situations, you've been hurt, you've been talked badly to or about. There's millions of things that happen in this human experience, which I personally believe is a really good thing. Not every tragic event, of course. A woman going running and having somebody do something to her is utterly horrific and disgusting. And I do not believe that that is part of the plan. But there is a plan to help you learn how to heal, I personally believe. And I believe that when we come into this earth, into these bodies, we know and we understand that there's going to be things that we need to heal. And that's what evolution is. Learning how to heal, learning how to see those things, learning how to not be afraid, learning how to not judge, learning how to show up in the world fully, presently, and authentically. And that comes with a lot of healing and sadness and a lot of crap that happens to you throughout your life to get you there. So I do want to say too that not everything that has happened to you, don't take it as something bad. Of course, there's moments and there's sick people in the world, but there are things that happen for a reason to help you heal, to help you grow, to help you love yourself, love your neighbor, and love others. And I think that's really a main focus of coming into this human body, is to heal, to evolve our souls, to understand what true and utter love is. And the greatest way to do that is to experience what fear, pain, sadness, anger, resentment is, so we can grow and evolve from those things. The greatest thing that helped me grow and evolve is forgiveness. So let's go back to my 4th grade teacher example. I remember her telling me, "You're not worthy, you're not good enough." She told this to most of us. I had a very terrible 4th grade teacher, and she would just be so mean and so horrible. But I remember as I was doing my shadow work and I'm looking into these issues that I had of you're not good enough, you can't speak your mind. I would become very, very recluse in 4th grade. I was so shy. Whereas in 1st grade and 2nd grade, 3rd grade, I was like the class clown. I was the person in front of the class, always talking, always doing, always participating. And then 4th grade came and I didn't want to, because I was talked down to a lot. We all were, all of us in that class. And so when I was doing my shadow work and I worked on healing those parts of myself, hugging myself, loving myself, telling me I'm worthy, telling me I can speak my mind, I had a spirit guide step in and ask me about forgiveness. Now, if you've been a part of this podcast for a while, you'll know that I have 2 spirit guides. They're twins that are always with me. And they both came to me and said, "You need to work on forgiveness as well." Because I was very angry when this limiting belief, that 95%, came up to show me that I have been living with this fear since 4th grade. I was so mad. I was so angry at my teacher for doing this. I remember feeling resentment towards her because she was supposed to be there to instill love and be love and show what love is and protect us and look after us. And I remember feeling so angry at her that this program has been running in my mind since 4th grade. And my spirit guide stepped in and said, wait a minute, you gotta work on forgiveness for that, because the anger is also going to be part of that 95% shadow, and you don't want that. And so it was really hard, but I remember working on hugging my teacher, and I visualized this in my mind. I hugged her, and in my mind, she hugged me back, and she started crying, telling me how sorry she was for the words that she said, for the things that she had done. I remember one time a student in my class, her name was Dorothy. I know her last name, I'm not going to say it, but Dorothy H. And she took her desk and dumped it over and said, "Your desk threw up. Now get on your hands and knees and clean it up." And even that, even though it didn't happen to me, it happened to Dorothy, that was my limiting belief as well, that I was afraid to upset her because she would throw things or she would get mad. And even though I didn't experience it for me, I saw it, and that became a limiting belief. Believe me, I had to work on a lot of stuff from 4th grade. But she hugged me and cried and she apologized. And I remember feeling this huge weight lift off of me. Huge. I felt almost euphoric, like I had lifted off this weight that had been sitting on my chest since 4th grade. And I could, even now, you hear my body taking a breath, because I remember, like I took a breath for the first time. It felt so fresh and so clean and so good. And so I realized that forgiveness is a huge part of this shadow work, this story as well. So as you're going through the shadow work, if there is a limiting belief or a situation or painful moment or a traumatic experience that you went through that involves another person, if you can, work on forgiving them. Now, I was able to forgive the woman that killed my father, and it took me years to be able to do that. I remember connecting to do shadow work with this situation, this traumatic event with my dad, and all I could do the first probably 6 months is, in my mind, of course, is scream at her, literally screaming until I couldn't breathe because I could not let it go. And I think that's very needed as well. You need to express that anger. There's nothing wrong with anger. It's just an emotion. It's just an experience saying, hey, There's something here in your body. This anger is rising up to tell you, hey, I'm ready to be healed. Don't worry about anger. It's not a bad emotion. It's bad when you live in anger, but when it comes up, acknowledge it, find out what it wants, and heal that crap and let it go. So let's kind of recap this podcast a little bit. We talked about shadow work and that it is running 95% of the show. The shadow is the parts of you that you're unaware of, that you have repressed through your life, and the parts of you that control your limiting beliefs, your emotions, your 3D world. But you're not stuck in that life. You can heal that shadow part. You can bring it to the light, which simply means bringing it into your conscious awareness, and heal those parts of you and let them go. And as you heal and as you work through those things, you want to forgive the person involved if you can. Slowly, if it takes time, but forgive the person, let go of the anger, let go of the resentment, bring that situation to the forefront of your mind and allow those feelings and emotions you had in the moment to be expressed. Yell, scream, cry, whatever you need to do, but then comfort yourself and tell yourself, no, those things are not true. You are beautiful. You are perfect. You do deserve this. You can speak your truth. You are safe. You are free, whatever it may be. And then you're going to start noticing your 3D world is going to change. But remember, it's not a one and done. Shadow work is something that you're going to be working on and experiencing throughout your life. And I don't want that to discourage you, because as you start doing it, you're going to like doing it. And I know that sounds so crazy, but I lay in bed every single night and do shadow work every night. And I look forward to it, because of the release it gives me, because of the healing it gives me, because of the expansion in my body, in my soul, in my life that I know is going to come from healing that crap that's in the background running that I don't want there. Again, I have a free inner child healing journal on my website. Please go to soulcareintuitive.com, download that journal, and get started on your shadow work journey today. Of course, I do have lots of videos on my YouTube channel that can help you with it as well. If you have any questions and you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. I'm so happy to answer all of those for you. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, I do have this podcast available on my YouTube channel. This is episode 11, and you can leave a comment down below. I'm so happy to answer those for you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Soul Care Intuitive podcast. I love to make these videos and these podcasts for you. I'll see you in the next episode.